Hey folks, Captain JZ here, Lord of the King Sport Fishing. Breezy night here in the Port Marina Wednesday evening. I just wanted to go through a few things. I've been seeing a lot of stuff online, and there hasn't been many answers to a lot of the questions out there. And the major question that I'm seeing is what's going on with the salmon run? How is the fishing in the harbor? How is the shore fishing, etc.? So I'm going to go through a few of those things, a few of the lures and whatnot that have been pretty decent here the last week, and also some spawn curing. I'm going to go over that stuff pretty quickly because it's kind of a no-brainer. But first and foremost, like I said, I've seen a lot of stuff online about people asking about how the fishing is here in port. In particular, Coldock Park in the marina here, the west and north slips are always historically hot spots for the salmon run here, and usually the piers should be lined with people, but they are not this evening because the fish just are not biting. So that's kind of the report. The major problem that we're having right now is we've been slammed with super warm water. I just took a temperature here in the marina sitting at the boat, and it's almost 74 degrees. So long story short, these fish have been in here now since around Labor Day, if not before. There's hundreds and hundreds of fish in here, Chinooks, cohos, browns, throughout the marina and in the harbor and into the outer harbor outside the break wall. We were out trolling Monday evening, and there was times when we hit pods of fish and the screen was absolutely just red with fish with hooks everywhere, and they're just not aggressive. They're just not biting. Again, the water is super warm. It's in the 70s to upper 60s, which just isn't conducive for a prolonged bite throughout the day. Now, that's not to say that there's not a few fish to be caught. There has been a few kings and cohos caught over at the power plant here, but again, the water is extremely warm, and the bite window for that bite is extremely small, to pretty much right at daylight or right before dark. So things are just a little bit goofy this year as far as the run goes. I've seen this in the past, and it's my gut feeling what happens is those fish will start running up the creek here and into the harbor, and they just get neutral. They're not really aggressive. They're not really looking to bite. They just want to spawn and then die. Which has happened, numerous times, throughout my lifetime, and it just makes things tough. It sucks for the shore fishermen because everybody waits for this time of year to come down here and catch a bunch of salmon, and normally at this time of year you could be hooked up in here floating spawn or casting crankbaits and spoons and so forth, but it's just a different animal this year. So what we do have into our favor here right now in the next couple days is we have a strong north wind coming, and we have a strong west wind coming after that. So it's going to cool that surface temperature down, going to hopefully upwell some cooler water from out in the lake and maybe get those fish a little bit more aggressive. But as of right now, we're just sort of in limbo, and it sucks for shore fishing and also boat fishing. We did have a good offshore bite into that 200 to 400 feet of water a couple weeks ago. Caught a lot of 3-year-olds, tons of giant big cohos and steelhead, and that has since kind of fizzled out for the most part. There is still some 3-year-olds out there and some of those big cohos out there that are biting, but the bite has gotten fairly slow. So same as inshore, there is a ton of fish in the harbor here. There's a ton of fish outside the harbor trolling. The guys trolling smaller boats are catching a few in the morning or right before dark, some of those big cohos, which is still fun in itself. There's some big giant cohos. I mean, I'm talking 10 to 14 pounders, which is a trophy in my opinion. We haven't seen those for a couple years up here, so hopefully they stick around for the next month or two so we can beat up on them. So in short, I did want to go through a few presentations for the trolling in shallow and things that have been working recently. Like I said, we were out Monday night, we caught a couple fish. So right now, spoons and crankbaits are hot. J-plugs. Some of the spoons I like are you can get away with the more gaudier colors this time of year. Orange Easter egg glow has always been a hot one for me. Also, like I said, your more brighter, more flashier colors, because these fish are biting more out of aggression. They're not hungry anymore. You're just trying to make them angry and get them to bite out of aggression, and that's why these gaudier, more brighter lures, these spoons and whatnot, are the hot key right now. So These happen to be Superfly Tackle, my buddy Big Dave here in town. He's a great spoon maker, so if you want to get any of his spoons, look him up. We'll leave a little link at the end there, but I run a lot of his spoons. He's got some really neat patterns here. This one's lime juice. That's been really good. And then your old classic gold HUD, that can be good too. Do not rule out though your your standard kind of your UV. The UV tape for whatever reason was really good for these cohos up close here the last week or so. Crankbaits with UV or these spoons with UV tape on them were really good. So don't quite put away most of your summer pattern spoons and so forth, or flashers for that matter, but pretty much this time of year I'm getting away from trolling flashers and flies and using more spoons and baits. Again, body baits are hot right now. Old school reef runners, big crankbaits, little tiny. This is actually this little lure here. This is a head and head hunter. I doubt you could find these anymore, but this thing has caught more cohos than anything out there for me over the years. So that's a really hot little bait. And then of course your classic Hottentots. I really like this darker purple color, and then also there's kind of like a flat orange color that's also really a good bait for this time of year. So again, J-plugs, always a mainstay. Everybody knows August, September rolls around. J-plugs are always notorious for catching a bunch of fish. Jointed number 3s or your little number 3s, even the big number 4s. This is always a really good one, kind of a glow with a green ladder back. Caught a lot of kings on that up close as well. So trolling these flat lines, a lot of times with these crankbaits, you're fishing them out anywhere from 80 to 120 feet back off the board to get them down to a desired depth. So most of those fish are all throughout the water column here. They're not just hugging the bottom when they're in less than 50, 60 feet of water. They can be anywhere from marked fish from 10 feet down to 20 feet down to on the bottom. So they're spread throughout the water column. So just stagger your baits, especially with these crankbaits. You really don't know what depth they're running at at whatever speed. Tend to run these a little bit slower, 1.8, 2.0 down at the ball, probably going about 2.4, 2.5 over ground. So you're going to want to slow down a little bit just to get that big wobble out of these bigger crankbaits. So those have been good. Another thing I've been seeing a lot about is spawn preparation or skein preparation, and I wanted to go through a few little items on that for float fishing. For, like I said, in here in the marina on the north and west slips, it's always been good float and spawn under a slip bobber, big chunk of skein, and that's always taken hundreds of kings here in the fall. But we're just a little behind here this year. So there's hundreds and hundreds of videos and hundreds of methods of curing spawn. These are just what I have done, and this is the products that I use over the years that are really quick and easy and clean to use, and they've always caught fish for me. So that's just what I tend to do. So one of my personal favorites are kind of a granular type cure. There's many different kinds out there. There's borax, there's Plotsky fire cure. I am partial to Atlas shaking cure. Like I said, it's really quick and easy. You get your ribbon of skein or your loaf of skein, it doesn't matter what it is. Coho preferably is probably the best. Chinook skein is a close second. So main thing with the skein or the spawn, if you happen to get some, is to get all the blood off of it. Rinse it off in cold water, make sure it's nice and clean. Let it get kind of air dried and let it get a little tacky. Let those eggs firm up a little bit, and then I like to douse it in this shaking cure. It's just like a Parmesan cheese type deal. Great granular product here. Douse it all over that skein. I like to put it either in a Ziploc bag, or else I have a little tub that I use. You can get one at the dollar store for $1, so you don't have to ruin your wife's nice banana bread plate. So make sure you get these cures all over that loaf of skein. Spread the skein, spread the eggs open. Make sure you get in all the nooks and crannies, and then what'll happen? It'll start to juice out and leach out, and that's basically what's curing and dyeing those eggs. So you want to let it sit in there for probably 45 minutes to an hour. You don't want to last too long. I've done this myself in the past. What ends up happening is that boric acid in there, it burns the eggs and it just turns to mush. So they're no good at that point. So usually roughly 45 minutes to an hour, let it soak in that juice. Get it out of that juice. Don't do anything with it other than pat dry it, get it kind of dried off, and then put it somewhere where it can either air cool and let it just dry and firm up. It'll get tacky and those eggs will get real rubbery, and then they're ready to go fishing with them. So days like we're going to have here in the next couple days where you have a cool north wind, I like to put them out on kind of a drying tray or drying rack outside in the garage or something like that, and just let the air hit them, and they work out and they'll turn out perfect. And then I've also seen people asking, how long can you keep the eggs for? Can you freeze them after they're cured? The answer is yes. They do last. I've used eggs that I've cured last year. I personally don't like to cure the eggs and then freeze them and use them again. That's just my personal preference. I usually like to keep them in the back of the refrigerator where it's fairly cool, and then you can use them for up throughout a month. It'll last for you. The other type of brine that I have also used in the past is a liquid brine. This Alice Bright and Tight. Again, I know there's Fire Cure and Fireball and all that stuff from Potskis, all basically the same thing. Again, be very careful with this liquid type brine because again, it'll burn your eggs if you're not staying on top of it. You can't just kind of set it and forget it. Especially with this liquid, I like to be around and be pretty hands-on with it and keep an eye on it and see it, see how it's going, take it out. If it's pale, put it back in, let it get darken up a little bit more, or else this liquid will burn it out, and then you're gonna have mush and you just burned up a whole ribbon of skein. So, and that's no fun, especially when you get out and do some fishing. So another thing I like to do in the fall, actually all times of year when I'm trolling, is using scent, some type of scent. This is Mike's just trout scent. Put that on a little dollop on a crankbait or a spoon. Put a little drop on your skein ball when you're float fishing. It doesn't hurt anything. So another trick that I use if you want to find a cheap scent is just anise oil that you can buy at any grocery store. I've been using that since I was a little kid, and it always is a little bit extra to get fish to bite, especially when they're a little bit negative and things are tough. So yeah, as far as, again, fishing right now, fairly slow here in Port Washington. Some fish are getting caught in the harbor. Guys are floating spawn. They're out there bobber fishing. They're catching a few fish. Guys are snap jigging spoons and so forth. Up off the bottom, they're catching a few fish. And then also trolling out in front as well. They are catching some fish too. So it all kind of depends on what you want to do. But for the most part, the peak of the run, in my opinion, hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping we do get a good bite in here in the harbor and over by the power plant, Cold Dock Park area, Rotary Park area. Again, make sure you check your rules and regulations. Some of those areas are not are all closed after dark for fishing, but you can quickly find that on the DNR's website. Mostly everything to the east of the Blue Bridge you can fish after dark, and then obviously out by the pier and on the lighthouse is open as well. Pretty much everything in here around Cold Dock Park and the power plant is closed after dark. And that was starting on September 15th, I believe. So one of the other things I wanted to touch on is which is very important right now with the amount of boat traffic that we have out there. Smaller boats, charter boats are going out, is boating safety and boating rules of the road. So quick and easy. I'm not going to harp on it, but again, there is a ton of boats out in front, and everybody's trying to fish and troll out in front and come in and out of the harbor. So any boat that's coming from your port side, coming from your left, you have the right of way. Any boat that's coming from your right side, they have the right of way, and you have to give way to them. So just remember, any way you're trolling, north, south, east, west, a boat on your left side, you have the right of way. A boat coming on your right side, they have the right of way. So you have to get out of their way. So it just makes things a lot simpler for everybody if everybody knows what the rules are out there, and keep from getting tangled up and getting angry when you're out and trying to enjoy yourself out on the water. So I hope that helped a little bit as far as what's going on here in Port Washington. I know Milwaukee seemed to be doing a little bit better as far as the shore fishing goes lately, but obviously they have a bigger harbor, and they have 3 big tributaries flowing into there. So there's fish up the Menominee, fish up the Milwaukee River, fish down by Jones Island underneath the Home Bridge and all that stuff. So We have a little bit smaller harbor and area here where the fish can go to, but I'm hoping with this cool wind that we have, it's going to cool down the water and the fishing's going to pick up here any day now. I would hope by the weekend the bite will kind of take off. These fish will move kind of back in here in the marina, and guys can get in here and gals can do some bobber fishing and catch some of these big kings. So that's it. That's all I have. If anybody wants to get out, we will be fishing into October. If anybody wants to get out for that last season trip before deer hunting and duck hunting and all that stuff really gets cranked up, we'd love to have you out. I know a couple other boats will be in here later as well too this year. So come on out to Port Washington. Let's go fishing. If not, if you have any questions or concerns, any questions on what I went through tonight as far as shore fishing and spawn preparation or else lures and what the trolling bite is doing, touch base with me and I'll try to help you out as best I can. So until then, have a great rest of your week and good fishing. We'll see ya.